Hi, hello, and welcome back to a podcast where I talk about going from corporate drone to corporate dropout as a fitness coach and gaming content creator and everything in between. You know it, you love it. Welcome back to Chaos and Fuckery. And today's a gaming episode. So, with all the changes on these platforms, Twitch has changed their partner program, they've changed their affiliate program, they've changed their font even recently. It seems like Twitch is in a phase of changing, and that may not always be in the favor of the creators on that platform, big or small. But what about YouTube? What about TikTok? What about, I don't know, Kick? Whatever these other platforms are. If I wanted to get into the streaming content creation today, what would I do? Right? Who is the ultimate platform? And the reality is if I was starting over, which in a way, because I've been so inconsistent, I almost always am starting over with my platforms, I would say, what would I say? I don't know. Because I've never actually, dual streamed to YouTube. And I know now currently you can dual stream to both shorts and like the main long form panels, right? It's both. You don't necessarily have to stream to one or the other, and I really don't know the statistics on YouTube streaming. I do know that as a consumer, the platforms are very, very different. When you live stream to YouTube, the chat moderation is not as heavy, especially for smaller accounts and people who are multi-streaming, but also the features available to chatters in the YouTube space is just not as much. You don't have, fun channel point redeems. You don't have the emotes really, from my understanding. There's just a lot of lack of concern for the actual community members over stream performance. And great, cool. There's also an issue with hate raids, but that also happens on Twitch. I think there's just a lot more moderation options to kind of keep from those hate raids actually coming to you. And as a newer streamer who might not have an army of moderators, you're going to have to do a lot of self-auto-modding and self-modding. And that is unfortunate to those involved if you are new and getting flustered by the platform, if you get hate raided by someone random. So there is that aspect to think of. And also a lot of YouTube can also be a lot of foreign users. And while you might see that on Twitch, I haven't had that experience as much. You might get someone speaking in a different language every now and again, but you can go, hey, I'm English only, sorry, and kind of, move on. Whereas you might see a lot more of the non-English and bots on YouTube versus on Twitch. Now, is there bots on Twitch? Absolutely. Kick is another one that, again, lacks moderation. While I haven't actually personally streamed to Kick, that platform, is kind of the hog wild. However, if you do want to put the time into that platform, they have something that none of the other platforms, I say none, meaning, YouTube doesn't really monetize live streaming. Yes, you can put ads on it and things like that, but it's not the same as what I'm about to talk about, which is Kick's partner program. If you reach the likes of partner, which I'm not even sure what their requirements are because I have had no interest in Kick since day one due to the lack of moderation. If you reach their top tier, they do actually pay their streamers a salary. It is not just, peddling for subscriptions and bits and things like that like it is on Twitch. And it's not just peddling for memberships and potential ad revenue depending on how large your account is on YouTube. Also, you don't have the freedom you still have to obey by ad laws if you live stream to YouTube. So your stream might be a little bit, controlled if you're worried about demonetization of a live stream. However, on Kick, once you reach the likes of their partner platform, they do actually have salary contracts for their partners, which is a cool thing that no other platform is doing right now that I think platforms like Twitch really should look into. Especially now that Twitch doesn't have their exclusivity contracts with their partners and even their affiliates, your multi-streaming now is a bigger. However, I believe if Twitch moved back towards, you will exclusively stream here with a contract, but we will pay you a certain amount that I believe someone like Ludwig had with YouTube is the reason the mass exodus of larger creators from Twitch originally happened with the move over to YouTube. Most of these creators were already in both places. They were just creating edited videos for YouTube and not live streaming, and they were using their live streamed content for those edited videos. So at the end of the day, if you want the potential to grow, Kick is a newer, there's not as many users platform that you might have the opportunity to reach the likes of an Aspen Gold and get paid to stream on top of your subscriptions and other user-based gifting that may come with being a creator of that size. So of the non-vertical platforms, YouTube, Kick, Twitch. What should you do? Well, if you're just starting out, try all three. Figure out what you like. But when it comes to a consumer perspective, your community, the likelihood you have of building a solid community that'll actually come follow you for a streamer and not necessarily just for what you're playing, or, less likelihood of hate raids or disgusting types of people coming to your chat and actually having a community that's enjoyable to be around, your win out is probably Twitch on that point. When it comes to politics, you're more likely to find your right-leaning bigots, if you will, on Kick, and sometimes you get that on YouTube as well, but it really just depends. However, I have found Twitch to be the most, accepting of different types of communities, as accepting as a advertiser-friendly platform can be. So there's that. When it comes to, longevity of your content, YouTube is definitely where it's at. And I believe that, even the baby streamers that may not even have the affiliate requirements, if you're gonna stream to Twitch, record that content locally, do some real rough cuts to your videos, and start building a YouTube channel in the background. Because when it comes to financial stability, while nothing in the content creation space is forever guaranteed, YouTube at least allows you to take a break from life every now and again, and has a longevity that content purely on live streaming platforms does not. Now let's talk about vertical content. As a gaming content creator, vertical content is weird. Because while, yes, using vertical platforms like TikTok is a great way to connect with other gamers and streamers, it is a great way to build your community and potentially build up your platform on other platforms. It has been long since proven that if you have a community on one platform, the likelihood you convince them to move to a whole new one, TikTok versus Twitch, YouTube, I started doing long form videos before I started streaming kind of scenario, is unlikely. You are not going to see a full return on investment on both platforms. You might get a few that trickle in here and there. However, with vertical, it is a little bit easier to get people to shuffle on in, because of the fact that in your format being this small, they're really only getting a portion of the gameplay, and they're not getting the whole story. They're not seeing the chats. They're not seeing the reactions to the different channel point redeems and things like that you would see if you saw the full version over on, say, Twitch or YouTube. And that, in my opinion, is one of the big components to dual streaming between a vertical and long form, is that potential to get people to hop. And I've had so many technical issues with my vertical that has actually convinced people to hop over to my main Twitch because TikTok was going sideways. Now, TikTok does have, a follower requirement, but if you were a gaming content creator, you can usually get in to the live streaming aspect of TikTok prior to actually hitting those follower requirements. And that is a benefit to gaming creators, because then you can multi-stream at almost day one, depending on how much you've used your vertical platform to build an audience before you start live streaming. Now, there is a unique, ugly piece to live streaming with TikTok, unless they have changed this recently, unless you have... Obviously, if you have a PC, this is less of an issue. You just have to give the live studio access a try. But if you are trying to multi-stream and you need a stream key, TikTok currently does not give away stream keys to any sort of live creator, or at least they didn't when I started dual streaming to TikTok. So you would have to go through what is called a TikTok agency to obtain that stream key and utilize it for multi-streaming on TikTok and Twitch. Now, you could just have TikTok Studio open in a separate window and then also have OBS or your preferred streaming for the long form platforms both open. However, that is going to cause some pretty significant usage of your computer, and your PC might not be able to handle that situation dual streaming, as well as it is a lot easier to utilize a streaming software like Lumia that allows you to migrate your chats into one location so that you can see everybody chatting at you and you don't have to look at 500 different chats all at the same time while also trying to stream a video game. So is TikTok worth streaming on? I think so. While I have stopped multi-streaming for a little bit now, just because I wasn't enjoying it anymore. I just wanted to grow on Twitch, and really growing on Twitch meant I wanted to create the content to be able to edit down videos for my YouTube. I'm not as focused on building my community based on my live streaming. I'm also trying to shift my TikTok, that is my largest currently, to be mostly fitness with a gamer twist rather than actual gaming content. And the gaming content will live purely on the gaming YouTube now. So that's a little bit of why I stopped streaming to TikTok. However, I saw some success and the ability to also gift and subscribe. Similar to that to Twitch, the user interface is okay. While I still prefer Twitch as a user, sitting in TikTok live streams and being able to chat and subscribe and send the galaxies or whatever the monetary thing on TikTok is, that is now also kind of made its way to Twitch in a way, is perfectly acceptable if you can meet the requirements to live stream on TikTok. That is the hardest part for a lot of gaming creators, is meeting those requirements. Now, I have never been a Facebook Live or an Instagram Live gaming creator, and I honestly don't know that they're that big of a benefit anymore with TikTok Live being a thing. TikTok does have a preference for gaming creators, so utilize that if you can. But when it comes to, should I stream vertical or should I stream long form? Both is the answer. If you're going to multi-stream in any way and you can only pick, 2 platforms, I would say one vertical and one normal. Whether that vertical is YouTube Shorts or TikTok, the requirements or barrier to entry on YouTube Shorts, I believe, is a lot simpler. I think you just have to verify that you're a real person. If it's anything like live streaming in the full form on YouTube, like I said, I've never really fully entered that world yet. I am likely going to do that here in the future after I get a few long form videos out and get a little bit closer to, meeting monetization requirements for my gaming channel. I will probably start dual streaming to YouTube. However, at the end of the day, your biggest bang for your buck when it comes to growth is utilizing the short form platforms to talk about tips for streaming, to, connect with other gamers, to share your gaming content, to share your streams, share funny moments, share, gamer funnies, whatever you feel like sharing, whatever your style of content is. Use that to then hustle people over to your Twitch or YouTube, depending on if you're streaming to or Kick, whatever platform you're streaming to then, find your ultimate platform. Managing multiple streams can get really, really complicated, and it's truly, really only worth it if you want a better uploaded VOD when it comes to doing multiple long form. Long and short, I think, or long and vertical is the way to go when it comes to multi-streaming. However, if you haven't already built those communities, definitely long and long if you already have a YouTube community or a Twitch community and want to start building YouTube. A good way, potentially, to start building YouTube is having those VODs, because those VODs get you more watch hours usually if people are going to go watch your VODs. So this is all, I'm no expert in any of this because I am not a YouTube partner, I am not a Twitch partner. I do have some perks, but I'm not full creator fund on TikTok either. This is just experiences I've had with talking with other creators, listening to other creators talk about, bigger creators talk about their experiences with multi-streaming and, switching to YouTube from Twitch, and then switching back to Twitch in some creators' cases, or, having an exclusive contract with Twitch and then going to YouTube, and then having no exclusive contract with anybody and deciding to stream certain content on one platform and certain content on another due to advertisers. This is just a collection of stories that I've heard from, other creators. When it comes down to what is the ultimate platform in the gaming space right now, that's like asking people what is the ultimate console. Right? You'll ask, what's the best console to buy my kid on the internet, and everyone will tell you invest in a PC instead. Well, that's not the question I asked. And that's reality, right? If I'm talking about a young kid that might be a Pokemon fan, well, then maybe buy them a Nintendo Switch. If I'm talking about, a Disney kid, maybe buy them a PlayStation back when, Kingdom Hearts was a PlayStation exclusive. If we're thinking, Call of Duty, for a long time, Xbox was the main Call of Duty platform, right? Obviously, it was cross-platform, but you couldn't play cross-platform with the people, so your kid you as the kid had to buy whatever console that everybody else is playing on. And you were lucky if you got cross-platform between PC and console. Good lord, that took forever. So there's always going to be a never-ending list of opinions, and you're gonna have to make that decision uniquely for yourself. But if I, sitting here today, am rewriting my business strategy, and I am in a way, I would listen to the words of some of the larger creators, and a lot of them have said that going into this year that they planned for Twitch to be their live streaming platform and utilizing it to create content for YouTube. So when they came into their streams, they would be streaming YouTube or content that they plan to turn to YouTube videos. And there wasn't going to be streams that were just wasted streams, because that in a sense is time wasted. So if I was a nobody starting from scratch today, I would start not live streaming, or not live streaming with the intent to grow. I would strive to stream just to get used to streaming and get used to looking at the camera and get used to, looking at chat and playing a game at the same time and interacting and talking to yourself for hours on end. And then from there, I would say use those videos and start building a YouTube presence. Keep streaming to build up your backlog of YouTube videos that you need to edit. But then as your YouTube continues to grow, you can start putting out your stream schedules and hopefully bring people over between the two platforms. But even if you don't, you're building a community somewhere that has a stable income base, as well as continuing to interact with other people on your platform of choice, whether it's Twitch or Kick, and continuing to utilize the short form platforms like TikTok to also grow and show off your skills. You have to be able to jump in on everything, but TikTok is going to be the easiest to be seen, as is shorts. You can just go all in on YouTube if you wanted to. And that's, I literally, when I started my gaming channel and with this podcast, I'm going all in on YouTube. I have an audio version of this podcast, but I'm not really doing much with it, right? I'm not promoting it to try to get views on Spotify or whatever. It's really just an audio only, background in the case that, I don't know why I bothered, but I'm really going all in with YouTube. And in the future, right, I'm just getting used to recording this podcast and getting all of my other stuff edited. Once I get the backlog of the other stuff done, I will get into, editing this podcast every week with assets and talking about real news stories and showing articles and, recording it maybe through, say, OBS or something like that, so that it feels a little bit more interactive as a podcast rather than just me talking to a mic for an hour. And it's never been an hour, but you know what I mean. So in the grand scheme of starting over, YouTube is the longest running platform that I think is here to stay. It is owned by Google, and I feel better taking money from Google than people who are watching me. And I don't know about you, but that's, it's great if people want to contribute to your streams, but if they don't, then you're still getting paid by Daddy Google. And that's why I think YouTube is the starting point for any new content creators in the gaming space that are coming in. It's got a large community, and with the right flavor on your content and right SEO, you could really make it big in a short amount of time. And when it comes to live streaming, what is the ultimate platform? There isn't really an answer to that. That is really up to you and your community and how they feel about the different things that you participate in. Right? Are you big bits and celebrations and funny things and funny gag moments? Are you big on that? Are you big on just really solid gameplay? Are you a no commentary gamer? What do you want to do with your content? Because that'll answer what platform you belong on. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't be utilizing short form platforms like Instagram and TikTok to really get your name out there, as well as connect with other creators. Because connection, I've learned in the gaming space especially, is almost make or break it for how your stream grows and if it grows at all. Connecting with other people and finding your way through all these different chats is the way to actually grow. There is no ands, ifs, or buts about it. And yes, it's impossibly difficult to, especially as an introvert, to want to enter all of these chats. But I have been my best as a live streamer when I was spending time every day being an active chatter, unfortunately, with the community I was trying to grow and connecting in Discords and being a part of actual communities, both my size and larger. And I think that was one of the biggest mistakes when I first started was I got into a lot of follow for follow or let's help us grow to affiliate type communities instead of connecting with bigger communities that might have the size that would be willing to collaborate if I came with something interesting to the table, right? One of the videos I want to do and make it a live stream is, instead of drunk Mario Party, your punishments for different things, losing a minigame or whatever that you typically drink for, would be exercise. And I think I could get a few different streamers to do that, but I have to actually, socialize and be a part of a community to actually make that work and have everybody have Mario Party. Because I don't even have a newest one right now. And that's another thing that can be hard is, not everyone can buy the next best great game, especially as small streamers. So instead of trying to keep up with the big streamers and buy all the new games, play a classic. Look at the different gaming categories and see what does well as both edited content and as streaming content, because one is not always equal with the other. Nintendo seems to do pretty good around the board. It's a nostalgia thing, I think. And I think that's why the Switch 2 did as well as it did, is because everyone has a little bit of Nintendo nostalgia, and that's why it did as well as it did. And that's why it continues to do as well as it does on big platforms like YouTube and Switch. So if you like Nintendo, maybe go that route, but with your own twist. If you like, some of the classic retro games, that's a good category as well. You have to find you, and then the platform you best fit on will work itself out, and you can experiment along the way if you really want to, or you can put your time into the one you enjoy being the most. But I can guarantee you, if you're not already a consumer and user on these platforms you're thinking about, that's where you start. You don't start with day one, hey, I'm starting a stream. You start with connecting with the community you're trying to join. And if you're gunning for the streamer community, that's where you belong, connecting with the streamers. So if you're wondering what platform is the best platform to start streaming on, what platform do you enjoy consuming content on? Start there and, figure out your strategy after that. I, as a gamer, like a little bit of chaos. I like a little bit of craziness. So I do like the extra interfaces of Twitch, but I also like the community of Twitch with bits and emotes, and the longevity of it is not as long as YouTube, but it's a pretty long time from a live streaming platform, and it is more optimized for live streamers, whereas YouTube is just not. So that's my 2 cents. Will I eventually multi-stream to YouTube? Probably, to help, grow my final watch hours or whatever I need to do. But it's not going to be my main platform for live streaming. If the YouTube stream dies, oh well, the YouTube stream dies. And that's how I felt about TikTok as well. If I had to end the TikTok live stream, I had to, because it was doing something funky. So you need to have a main, and then your backup is what you multi-stream to. What those are is up to you. My recommendation at the start is a long and a short, or a vertical and a long, if you will. Usually the vertical platforms are also short form platforms. You can have it all with YouTube and Twitch. I don't think you need much more than that. TikTok now has just as much virality as YouTube Shorts, if not less. So if I was putting my money in the pockets of companies that would last the test of time, I would fully put it in YouTube, but if I had to put it in 2, it would be YouTube and Twitch. Because another thing to think about when it comes to building a platform on something like TikTok, if that became your main platform, you may lose it. We still do not have a concrete yes or no on TikTok, and it is scary to build a giant platform and not have a backup of at least similar size and use cases. Because you could lose your funding of the creator fund, you could lose your funding of live stream payouts, you could lose your funding of TikTok shop, and that's a scary thing for a lot of self-employed people as creators, even as side gigs, even, that I wouldn't want anyone starting out now to have to face. Those of us who have already, gained that notoriety, well, unfortunate, we're going to have to make up that income. However, if you're just starting out, I definitely wouldn't start with TikTok for anything other than I put slop content that I've already made for other platforms on here. It's not the platform to be right now until we have a clear-cut decision on what to do with it. But that's just my 2 senses. 2 senses? That's just my 2 cents as a gaming content creator, fitness content creator. I see multiple different sides of these platforms, and I listen to a lot of big creators talk about what their struggles over the last decade or so with these platforms has been, how they plan on going forward in this new world where they're not getting as much support on something like Twitch because people don't have as much money to throw at them, and they're not as bored like they were in the pandemic. So your AdSense revenue isn't as high because your views aren't as high. And those are all things to think about when you're actually trying to build a business, and you have to start from day one thinking of your content creation as a business in order to really treat it successfully in the future. So that's where I'm at right now, ladies and squirms. When it comes to the perfect platform, there isn't one. But there's logic behind every decision you make in business, and you have to make that decision appropriately for you. So I appreciate you for being here with this chaos and total fuckery, because it was just a random topic that I wanted to talk about, because I've seen that question asked a lot from like newbie creators. Where should I start? Should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? And the answer is really, you have to do whatever is best for you. There is no one popular solution, and not every large creator on YouTube or on Twitch is on the other platform. So at the end of the day, I appreciate you for being here. And if you like this content, feel free to, hit that subscribe button and join for more chaos and total fuckery in the health and fitness and gaming realm, as long as you are following my journey as a small business owner.